You're gonna hit record. All right, all right, all right. Welcome back. Welcome back. Guys, you know us. I'm one of your co-hosts on Dad Bods, Dad Boss, the show where we talk all things business, being a dad and a man in today's world. And what we're going to be actually diving into is if you're in Australia and if you follow what we call AFL, Australian Football League, I think. Aussie rules, right? Sport only played in one of the only sports that's ever like just played in Australia only, right? There is a kind of like a scandalous moment right now, especially for the Sydney Swans, the team that my sister barracks act for actually. So I haven't hit her up about this yet. But like a couple of weeks ago, they played in Melbourne. They won the game, and then five of their players, including two star players, went for a night out, kept partying into the night, you know, and then as a result of that, alleged drug use, alleged sexual assault, being stood down by the club, sponsors pulling out of their personal brand membership, and everyone from the club is just scrambling, right, to diffuse this situation. So that's what we're going to dive into today. But can't do it without these two amigos here. Number one, oh, can't remember last time I seen this guy. Right, I just thought it was a figment of my imagination. Mr. High Performance Father himself, Eric. What's it doing, man?
Yeah, going well, going well. Do we do this once per month or once per week? How often? Is it weekly? Yeah. Shit, I have to change it in my calendar.
I think
Once
he
in a
last jumped
while,
on
mate.
in
Once in a while.
2024.
Um, Now I'm a bit concerned because it's very rainy and it means that the grass will grow more. So I have to do another lawn care action very soon. Last time the father-in-law came and actually done the lawn and all outside. So that's good, but that's
Oh,
already 3 weeks ago. So I think it's my turn soon. Yeah.
lucky for you, our other co-host, Eric, our other co-host, Mr. Helmeted Guinea Fowl, has a spare lounge for you to crash on.
That's not that bad yet. Yeah.
What's
Hey,
happening?
I'll even give you the spare bed, but it's only a double bed, and you're probably too tall for it, so you'd have to sleep diagonally, and your feet would still hang out the end anyway. Mate, I can also confirm that our lawn has not been mowed since probably 3 weeks before I did my elbows. So that's about 8 weeks ago. So, but what are you talking about, Eric? Just get some grass that doesn't grow, mate. Like ours doesn't even look like it needs mowing anyway, and it's been 8 weeks. So you got to have the right kind of grass, mate. Invest. Don't worry about investing in a lawnmower. Invest in grass.
Yeah, 100%. Especially the grass that like gives you the breakthroughs. Speaking of mowing lawn, just quickly, hey, what you guys need is you guys need your kids to grow up because I literally paid my eldest $10 to mow my whole backyard. Oh man, how good was that? And then I put on my socials, hey, paying him $10 for this, is this the average rate? And the amount of people who wrote to me and saying, man, $10 was the going rate in the 80s. They definitely need to pay him more.
Then everybody knows that you're a tight ass.
And I say, hey, and my response was, hey, feel free to contribute, you know. Oh, all right, guys. All right. So look, um, let's dive into this, right? Because it seems like we see this by sports stars over and over and over and over again. It seems like lessons aren't really learned because there's always a new scenario like this happening, right? So let me break down what's been reported so far, right? So, a couple of weeks ago, the Sydney Swans, they played a game in Melbourne, right? They won the game, and instead of going to sleep after the game, five of them, right, including, as I mentioned, two of their superstars, decided to kick on, right? Kick on for a night out. And so as a result of that, there's been reports that, hey, there's alleged cocaine use, there's, late night hotel bookings. And from there, you know, there's an ongoing policing investigation into alleged sexual assault now, right? So just to be clear, there's no charges just yet, right? But it was big enough for the club to stand them down immediately for the rest of the season. And this team was currently second on the table, so they had a really good chance at winning the title as well, right? So as business owners, right, this is kind of like the employee nightmare that we never want to encounter. But like, obviously, this is like the next level, okay? Because we want to think about like we want everyone in our team to be high performers. We want to be able to support them, right? But what happens when they go completely off the rails, right? Then we've got to, I guess, make a choice, yeah. And what I'm hearing is like there's a balance, there's a delicate balance between following due process, because it's been taken out of their hands, but also like our own personal and business integrity and values come into play. Yeah. So many things happening on so many different levels, right? But I want to start with you, Mr. Eric. Mr. Eric, you being a coach for a lot of high performance fathers, high performance men, right? Um, from your experience, yeah, is this like by suspending these people, right? Suspending these 5 players, was that the only kind of like move that this club could do, as a leadership group? And like for example, as a business owner, would we just have to put them on leave without pay just to get them out of the situation? Or, from your experience about this, Eric?
It's not just me. It's Shane has noticed it as well. Like Shane, Quang was a
What
bit,
happened?
bit
What
slow
happened?
and a bit fast, but I think I got the question. I got most of it. Yeah. The terrible.
Answer away anyway.
Yeah. Nah, so definitely challenging situation, for like I guess the people in leadership of the club there, what best to do, what signal do we send? Because I think
Mm,
that's the bigger question, like whatever, Sydney Swans do or the leadership sends a signal, right? So we
mm,
suspend them or we don't suspend them. Either way, there's a signal, I guess, internally for the organization culture or the team culture and also externally. And I guess that's maybe even two different things, I would say, because one is like a business decision,
yep.
but then I guess, yeah, part of the business decision is the culture. And actually something funny enough, we had Paul Roos coming into our community a few weeks ago. Roosy, who is actually with
Ruzi,
Sydney
yeah,
Swans.
Ruzi. Everyone knows Ruzi.
Roosy. I didn't know him. I'm not Aussie, but now I know him. He done a session. For our community. And he actually spoke about team culture, and he was the coach who helped the Swans to win again after, I don't know, 20 years or so. Um, but yeah, he spoke about team culture, how important it is to point out what the team is doing well or particular guys. But I guess then the opposite is if somebody is not living to the standard, then if you wouldn't do anything, then you would say that's okay. And then all of the guys who are doing the right thing, or what's the point of doing the right thing if it's not being punished, to do the wrong thing, for the team. So I think there maybe wasn't any other option, than suspending the players there. But then the question is there maybe something in the team culture itself, that it's that could have been better leading up to these events, um, that like players thinking that's the way of celebrating, and then especially nowadays with the internet and everything, I guess it's pretty naive, to think you get away with it, if you're doing stuff like that. So um, interesting
Yeah.
situation,
So
but I
so
think that's yeah.
so on that, Eric, just quickly, right? Because um, we're talking culture gets thrown, the word culture gets thrown around a lot, yeah. And so obviously these guys are on big money, right? So being on this big money and knowing that they're already, um, you know, a target for the media, right? And there's going to be more eyeballs on them. They should also, maybe it's an assumption of my end, but they should also like have a higher standard as well, right? So would you say that this is a result of like, I guess, a result of poor culture, right? If they've already got an elevated standard, or is they've just made like some dumbass decisions?
Yeah, could be both or like a mix. But I also think, no one prepares, someone for this. We always often speak about identity, right?
Mm.
So, most likely that are I don't want to say normal people like you and me. I mean, we all got our strength or whatever, but they're suddenly in this public picture that much, but they don't know how to act, so they're still like,
Mm.
maybe the same person that they were before they came into the public eye, and they haven't really shifted. They didn't really take on the role of a role model, So I think that's something to consider, like a lot of young men, a lot of teenagers, you're looking up to men like that, and then you think, oh, that's normal that
Yeah.
you're excessively party and doing stupid things when you go out. But could be a cultural thing as well, because then maybe in the leadership, maybe that's something that could have addressed them earlier or as part of the culture or, training that the team is doing to already think about it and helping players with that, because that's no good for the players. Now they are suspended, and what's now? Then maybe their careers over, or they can't play that high anymore after what happened. So big consequences for them, So
Mm.
that's their career path. So I think but also could be an amazing culture, and it's only a few guys who are
Yeah.
who are doing the wrong thing, and yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you, I hear you. So, like, so this happened, so like most people, like we all have a job, right? We go to work, and so this happened outside of work hours, right?
Mm,
Outside of work hours. So, um, and these guys are being punished for something that has happened outside of work hours. So, as business owners, Shane, right? Um, love to get your insight and input on like at what point do we step in? Like, or what is that boundary? Or is there a boundary, to us penalizing our employees for off the clock behavior?
Yeah, great question. I think the first thing to recognize is your employee or are our employees a representative of the company? And
Mm.
for sports, for athletes, they are representative of the company 24/7. That's just a fact of their life. That's part of their role. That's part of the agreement that they sign, is that I will represent the team, the company, the sport in itself as well,
Yep.
24/7, because I become known. Now, for someone who's got just a little building company or something like that, where he's got one or two staff and stuff like that, probably not the same kind of impact from the two apprentices, for example.
Yep.
But if they're out and about and they're wearing the, Shane Building Company, and then they get themselves into trouble, or, put their do something that's not aligned with the company and stuff, then that's a reflection on the company as well, because they're dressed in your apparel as such. So
Yep.
I think the big difference here is with these guys is they are a role model of the company.
Yep.
So sure, it might have been out of work hours, but are they really out of work hours? Because at the end of the day, they're the front of the page.
Yeah.
They're the front of they're the front of the company. They're not anyone in behind the desk, or even a lot of the trainers that never even make it to the bright lights or the cameras or anything. I mean, sure, they still need to be held responsible for those situations, but they are representative of the company, which makes a big difference.
Yeah, yeah. And so, continuing this theme as well of, them making individualized decisions, but also being like the face or the representative of the country, right? Of the company, right? Um, like as I alluded with Eric there, like, is it a case of like failed culture, failed leadership, right? That this happened, or is it just five guys who went out, had a bit too much to drink, under the influence of certain things, and they just end up making some really, really shit ass decisions?
Yeah, well, I mean, the first thing would lend a hand to like we at the end of the day, we've got no control over how someone behaves.
Mm,
And if you get five idiots together that just want to do something stupid, then they're going to go and do it probably.
yeah.
But so yeah, sure, there's been five guys go out, made some dumb decisions and done something stupid. Is it a reflection of the culture? Not 100%, but probably to some degree as well, because
Yeah.
there's team culture and team standards that you can build, but then you've also got to have individual standards as well.
Yep.
And what we could look at is go, well, actually, how can we help raise individual standards within the team so that when we do go out, we don't make those dumb decisions? Or how do we even provide a culture so good that they don't even want to go out? They actually want to stay in the hotel room, in the hotel, or stay together as a team and just party together and just hang out
Yep.
together, or do things together anyway. So that then they don't go out looking for that extra thrill. That's essentially what's happened. They've gone out looking for a
Yep.
thrill, in my mind. They've gone looking for a thrill. They found a way to do it, and now they've got themselves into trouble by doing it. So, how do we build a team culture in such a way that the guys are like, I love being in this environment. I love being around the other 30, 40
Mm,
guys. I don't, you know what? I don't even need to go to town. I don't even need to go and hit the bars.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. And you like, and you would like be the great person to reflect on this because you did that that was it the Canterbury
Yeah,
rugby training.
yeah.
Was this like a key thing that they talked about for like standards, behaviors, culture,
Yeah.
keeping the kid togetherness, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so they talk about like having a vision and then having values that support that. Most importantly, must be values
Yeah.
driven. And then underneath that, it's about, well, how do we uphold the values? And that's got to come from the players. Like
Mhm.
the staff can implement the values, the staff can dictate what they are, but if the players aren't buying into it, then it's not going to work and it's going to fold, right? So,
Yeah.
and that's something we saw in our rugby club this year. Like we talked about values, but the players just didn't buy into it. So then there was no community culture there at all,
Yeah.
basically, right? So it's got to be driven by the players, which means how do I get the players to hold each other accountable to their behaviours on and off the field? And it could start with the small things, the discipline of like turning up on time, that kind of stuff, or putting in effort and stuff at training, or just being a good person, sweeping out the sheds and stuff, all that kind of stuff there. You can have the other players build the discipline and the accountability on that, which would
Mm.
then flow onto their effect as a human being anyway, because that's how you could help impact that as well, is in that
Yeah.
way. The one thing that really does stand out, and it probably, I don't know, you maybe you're going to touch on this, but like, is what the company is, what the team is, what they've done right as far as standing
Mm.
down. I would say yes, because they have to make an example of them. Because one of
Yeah.
the things I did learn from the Crusaders thing was whatever you walk past becomes a standard. So
Mm.
if these five guys went out and they didn't stand them down, they didn't punish them, what do you think is going to happen next week and the week after?
Yep.
Five other guys are going to go, oh, well, it's all right for them. Well,
Yep.
I'm going to go and do that. And now it becomes a standard, which means instead of losing just five guys from the roster, they're probably going to lose 10 or 15.
Yep.
And then it becomes a real big problem. So putting the foot down, setting the standard as a standard, and now everyone else on the roster knows, well, shoot, we don't want to be misbehaving. We don't want to be making these stupid decisions because I want to play. I want to do the best for the team, but I want to get paid too. Because I'd imagine if
Yeah.
they've been stand down, there's a pay cut
Yeah.
coming.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. 100%, and it's really I find that what you shared there was really interesting about, you know, team culture, but individual standards, right? And and probably we're going to talk about like, just I guess sport in a general level, right? Because it's happened recently, like in AFL, but these kind of scandals aren't exclusive to AFL, right? You know, we see it in rugby league a lot, right? We see it in other sports, right?
Tiger Woods, mate,
Tiger Woods, right?
individual sports.
Tiger Woods, Nick Kyrgios, you name them. Like there's fallacies everywhere, right? Um, and we look at the sport, I guess sport, right? There's and it seems to be just males, right? So they, physical, like what is it called, Shane? Like when you're physically good at something.
Specimens.
Yeah, physical specimens. I don't know. They're just physically adept, right?
Yeah.
Then they're given like lots of money, right? They get status. They become like idols to the wider population, right? And so uh, sports in general, or whether you call it sports culture, like they maybe there's something around that, right? That that hasn't changed or evolved, you know, like as other cultures have. So working with like men predominantly, Eric, right? Have you noticed like maybe not, and it doesn't have to be just sports culture, but maybe culture for men, just being a little bit outdated, right? Or perhaps it hasn't, come as, as forward as we think it might have. Like, because we are in a space where we're, learning about language, behavior, that kind of stuff, right? But not much of the population is doing that as well, right? So when these people come into your world, Eric, do you find that some of their standards and practices are maybe from the past?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. It's conditioning, from the upbringing, from the environments, and generationally, we notice certain
Mm.
patterns, of drinking. Alcohol is a big one that I see obviously with men.
Mm.
It's funny, it doesn't matter what background. And I've seen this in my own family, in my upbringing. I see this with guys here in Australia. It's a big one. And sometimes really hard to shift for guys, if it's so conditioned and then you're still in the same environment and then you're the one who want to change it. So not easy, not easy. Or the culture, it's culture as well. It doesn't have to be in the sports. It can be the culture in a family, the culture in a workplace. So I have it a lot with the guys who are working in the trades. And it's just a normal thing, that you drink after work or particular on a Friday. Um, it's really, really tough if that's the culture, can be in the family, right? In our own family, or then, and if we start our own family in a way, um, it's
So yeah. So I was going to ask, like, if things are kind of like that ingrained, then like Eric, what are some of the strategies that you guys use there at HPF to help break those old patterns or the outdated examples or outdated culture that they come into you guys with?
yes. Many things. I think one of the main things is definitely then a better environment, like better people around you. Not better, I mean, is it better? Yeah, better for the person. Doesn't mean that the value as a human is no good if somebody is drinking, but in a better environment. So, the brotherhood for us being part of that, and then you connect with other guys, like we going for this St. Mary's hike on the weekend, which is South Australia, like a 3-day trip, 1 day full day hike, and there will be no alcohol, for example. Right? It's 40 guys,
Oh, 40
um,
guys
40 guys
hiking.
hiking, yeah, in the mountains, yeah. Um, but that's an example, of like, and then a lot of the guys say, I didn't think, that's possible that guys can come together and we actually not on the piss. So that's how you then break a conditioning or limiting belief, let's say, of how you hang out with other men together, without alcohol in this way. So that's a big one. But then I also think it's just about, habits, small changes. We all know about atomic habits or other concepts about how do you change or break a habit. It's by installing a new one, and that's a big one for us as well. Nothing too groundbreaking, but you start to get up early in the morning. You start to, exercise regularly. You start to look after what you put in your mouth. You start with some mindfulness, breath work, meditation, whatever it is. And then learning some tools, learning some practical tools to be better in your relationships, in your parenting, in your communication. Um, Putting all of that together, then you have a good chance to really what's the word? Change the identity, by changing your environment. And the cool thing is a lot of the online things. You do this online, you do this in person parts of it as well. Um, and it's still not easy, even saying all of that.
Yeah,
It still takes a lot of work, going against this old conditioning. You maybe still
yeah.
have your old friends around, it's yeah.
And I think what you said there is like really important, right? So because part of, having that, changing that environment then also allows you to see what's possible as an option, as as you said there, like
Yeah.
group of guys, probably never thought of it previously, but a group of guys hiking together up in the mountains, sharing a cabin, a barn. Who would have thought, right? Who would have thought that that could be a way to change old behaviors?
Yeah, I can see you're a bit jealous that you're not invited. Yeah, so I can definitely see that. Yes. Next year I send you an
Mate,
invitation.
yeah, I'm so disappointed. Like, why wasn't I first name on the list, mate? We all want some Brokeback Mountain action.
Yes.
Oh, I love it. And yeah, and then just finally, Shane, like, um, for me, the key thing, for me out of this is like, with my parent hat on, especially with two boys, is like, um, accountability, right? Like, inevitably people mess up. Like, this is a mess up on the next level, right? But for me, I really want to, to teach my kids, my boys, how to take accountability when they do something that that's not them, that they've just made a wrong choice or a wrong decision, right? Um, how can we ensure that our kids are able to raise their hands and own that when they mess up, so that they don't they can learn the lesson from it at this early age and not make a big like stuff up later on down the road.
Yeah, I think the first, the thing, and we talk about it a lot, is being the example. So if we make a mistake, then taking the accountability and owning that, and having a conversation with the kids. Hey, look, I just, we've done this as a family, or I did this as your dad, and I realized it was not the right decision, and who knows what that could be, but something that just didn't quite work out. Right? Oh, look, we did this, we made this decision, and it didn't work out. And having the conversation around taking ownership and accountability around that, because when they see you do it, then they're more likely to do it.
Yeah.
And I think this even ties back to this whole situation. Like, if we think about like these five guys going out doing those things, where did they come up with that? Well, they probably heard about the legends from the 80s that used to go out and party hard after every game. And it plays out in all areas of life. I've seen it in all areas of life, like from my rugby days, from the rodeo days, from my all the other things I've done as well, even right back to when I was at high school. I think about this now, like I was like, oh, because when you go to high school, like we were in the hostel and we had got the guys that were like 4 or 5 years older than us, and we looked up
Yep.
to them. They were on a pedestal, and oh yeah, I want to be just like them because they were cool and all that.
Yep.
They played the sports and they had the girlfriends and all that. We're like, oh, I
Yep.
want to be just like them. And then we
Yep.
hear the whispers around the hostel. Oh yeah, they snuck out. They went drinking. They go behind the sports hall and they smoke and they do all that stuff. So what do you think we want to do? We want to start
Yep.
smoking at 13 or 14 or 15. We want to start drinking as soon as we can because we have this idea that we want to be like them, but we're not actually necessarily seeing the bad behaviors and the negative consequences from them as well. And then by the time they're gone, then we become that next thing and it becomes who we are. So
Yeah.
it's about asking ourselves, like, well, who am I aspiring to be by doing that
Yeah.
thing? And that's what these guys have.
Yeah.
They've aspired to live up their reputation that footy players are hard asses that party hard
Yeah.
and have a lot of fun and stuff. Well, maybe that's just not the smartest way to do it. And then that ties back into us as parents, is like our kids are looking up to us, going, "I want to be like Dad. I
Yeah.
want to." I want to be, and if you think about it, the way that most relationships are generally a repeat of how mum and dad's relationships were.
Yep.
So if we're in a relationship where it's like loving and caring, then our kids are going to see that on the way that, oh, that's how a man treats a woman, then that's how I'm going to treat a girlfriend when I get one. Or if
Yep.
it's abusive and manipulative, then it could very easily, and I'm not saying man to woman or woman to man, but either
Yeah.
way, they're going to go, oh, that's normal. So if you've got an abusive father, then you're like, oh, that's normal. Or if you've got a manipulative father or a manipulative mother, you're like, oh, I'll just attract someone like that into my life because
Yeah.
it's normal. So it's really
Yeah.
about us as fathers standing up and going, well, actually, what's the best example of how I can manage myself in all situations so that
Yeah.
then the kids go, oh, I aspire to be like that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So powerful. Yeah. Let's not normalize, the negative behaviors, right? And let's start normalizing the behavior that we actually want for our kids. So as you guys said, it's all about being that role model, and so that they can learn through osmosis, right? Observations. So man, guys, this, in wrapping this up, right? In summarizing all of this, right? This just like, what does this situation teach us? Like, it just says that you could have the best talent in the world, you can make as much money as possible, you could have even like the best branding, right? But if you lose sight of the character that you bring into your place, or the characters of the people already there, and you don't have these accountability processes or practices in place, you literally could lose everything, right? Like these guys have at the moment. So, culture, winning culture, winning leadership is not just celebrating the wins, but it's all about, as Shane alluded to earlier, like being able to pull people up and making those agonizing calls or those tough calls when people cross the line, because that's not something we stand for as tolerate. And as dads, we want to make sure that our kids tread the right path as well. So, hey, don't forget to hit subscribe, and Dad Bods, Dad Boss signing out for another week. One arm Magoo.